Now, you've, helped Fortune 500 CEOs and really big deals go through. What is like one brutal truth you wish you could tell every big time deal maker that they probably don't already know or don't want to hear?
Ooh, that they don't want to hear. In my time doing my own negotiations, consulting on these deals, learning from the best in the business with the podcast, we only need 3 core skills to be a great negotiator. After 1,600 episodes of the podcast, that was the disappointing reality because I didn't want it either. I'm a professor of this, right? So I teach at the law school. I like to be really tactical. I love to go deep into the tactics and the strategies, right? But when I push the best negotiators in the world to tell me stories about their toughest negotiations, what do they fall back on? These 3 core skills: listening, asking questions, and managing emotions. That's it. And when you think about a tactic, all a tactic is a combination of those 3 skills used at the right time, in the right moment, in the right way. That's it. And so a lot of times these deal makers tend to become tactic hunters. I want to get the newest and best tactic and everything like that. But at the end of the day, listen, ask questions, manage emotions, yours and the other side's, and just create an intentional connection with the other side. That is what wins the day the majority of the time. And I think people aren't willing to just put down their barriers and connect human to human, especially when the deal gets really, really important and the numbers get really, really big. But if we remember that it just comes down to that human connection, that's the edge, then we can make these tough conversations.
How do you talk to somebody who doesn't like you? What do you change?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Because first of all, we have to understand where that comes from. Sometimes it's vibe, like oil and water. We're not compatible. Sometimes it's because of what happened in the past, right? And so in those conversations, what I want to do is, instead of just focusing on the actual argument or conflict, usually the problem comes long before that. It's a deficiency of trust, right? A deficiency of likability. So when we think about it very, very basically, let's think about this fundamental rule of trust. Trust is gained in drips, but lost in buckets. You make a mistake, you lose all of it, but in order to build it up, it takes time. It takes repeated interactions. Think about this other thing. Have you ever had a situation where you heard a song, and the first time you hear a song, you're like, it's okay. And then you keep on hearing it over and over again. Then you're like, man, I vibe to this. I like this, right?
Yep.
So in psychology, that's called the mere exposure effect. So the more you're exposed to a stimulus, as long as it's not negative, if it's neutral or positive, you'll start to like it more. And so the problem is, Cody, a lot of times with certain people, we only interact with them when there's a problem. We only interact with them when there's a problem. So you're not Cody, you're just bad news to them, right? And so we just need to warm up the relationship and lower the stakes of each conversation. Let's find ways to interact with each other, even if it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just a little positive, warm interaction. Those little things really matter.
What do you think the ratio is of negative interactions to positive interactions to make sure that you have that mere exposure effect positively?
Studies say it's 5 to 1. Yeah. And I was doing a coaching call earlier today, and I talked about that because they were talking about how hard it is to give feedback. I said, one of the reasons why it's so hard is because we don't give positive feedback. We don't do positive reinforcement. We don't tell people when we like them. And so the only time we have a conversation with them about performance or something that they did is when something bad happens. But we don't take the time to realize this fact. Usually, if you're not bringing up anything about their performance, it's because they're performing well. And you don't say anything about it. And so we have to take the time to give people real, legitimate compliments when they perform well. And when you start to actually give a person a real compliment, like it hits them in their heart, right? It hits them differently. Not like, oh, that was a good job. No, let's be specific. So you want an example?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So there was actually, I think I was in your hometown. I think it was Austin, Texas. I was talking to an Uber driver. And so she was talking about the work that she does in the community. And she said, oh, I always thought by this age I would have kids, but I don't have kids. But I just really pour into my community. I try to give back as much as possible. I volunteer. So I was just hearing everything that she was saying. And then at the end of the ride, I just paused. And I was like, you know what? You might not have achieved that one goal, but it seems like you actually have more children than you realize because of the impact that you've had.
She's crying.
She cried.
I would be crying.
She just cried, you know? And so you have to take the time to listen, understand what people really, really want, and then tell them with specificity, let them know that you see them, because a lot of the people today, they just live their life completely unseen.
How do you stop over-explaining yourself in an argument?
Oh, this is good. Because here's the thing. Because when we are over-explaining, what we're doing is we're giving away our power to the other side. When we are over-explaining, it means that we are seeking validation from somebody outside of ourselves, and we are asking from them something that we are incapable of giving to ourselves. And so the key is to try to break free from that conversation and do some internal work. Why is it that I can't get what I need in this moment, right? And I think about even in my relationship, in times where, for instance, my wife, she's a doctor, but I remember we had our first son in residency, and it was tough because we got married graduation day of undergrad. So we've been together all the time, spent a lot of time together. But then when she was in residency, we had the baby and I was launching my company. It was very tough. We didn't have as much time. And I found myself having these conversations with her, these arguments, because I had these needs, because I was feeling lonely. Then I realized, wait a second, I have a challenge with being alone. I cannot handle solitude. There's a difference between enjoying solitude and being lonely, right? And whenever I was by myself, I felt lonely, not experiencing solitude. So I recognized that what I needed to do was learn how to satisfy myself by spending time with myself, and recognize that I am just as legitimate of a partner to spend time with as her. And so whenever we find ourselves over-explaining, we have to recognize that we are giving away our power to other people, seeking something from them. And if we can find that source within ourselves, now we're going to be more empowered communicators.
So if you were going to put this into practice, what would you tell people to do with members of their team and with their loved ones on a more consistent basis? Are you like keeping track of positive to negative interactions? Like, what could people do right now today to make better relationships knowing this kind of crazy framework?
Pick up your phone right now. Think of somebody that you care about. Tell them why you appreciate them. That's it. No reason. No reason, no agenda. That's it. That's one really meaningful deposit in the relationship.
Like in life, you are going to have people you don't like. Like, what do you say to someone when you don't like them to start a hard conversation?
So you say, listen, Cody, I don't like you.
Exactly. I'm like, that's how I do it.
So I think it's one of the things that happens is we unintentionally gaslight people into pretending that we don't know what happened in the past, right? And so that causes resistance from the beginning of the conversation. If we've had beef in the past and I just come up and act like everything's okay, that's like disrespectful, right? So what I want to do is, again, with the framework, my acknowledgement is just, I'm going to clear the air. I'm just going to say, hey, listen, I know in the past we've had our challenges, and my goal in this conversation is to just connect with you so we can try to get back on track. I'm not going to deny the reality that we both know exists, right? I want to make it clear my goal here is to work with you. I'm not trying to argue with you and say you were wrong or relitigate the past or anything. Things happen in the past. Let's leave it in the past and let's figure out what our future is going to be together. And that's one of the most powerful things you can do to make a conversation more productive, especially when there's been resentment and hurt in the past. Just focus on the grammatical tense of the conversation. Pain, resentment, frustration, judgment, all of that exists in the past. It's hard to be mad at something that hasn't happened yet. So what I like to do is I sacrifice the past to win the future. So the person might say, Kwame, you did this, you did that. And I said, hey, listen, I know that I've made mistakes in the past. And what I want to do is get us back on track to make sure that we don't make those mistakes again. Considering that, what should we do now? Right? And so just keep it focused on the future.
That's fascinating, because I think it seems scary to say the quiet part out loud first, but it's almost like deflating a balloon.
Absolutely.
Like if you let the air out, then it's just hard to stay so coiled.
Yeah.
Which is so useful. You know, you brought up gaslighting, which is, you know, I have so many thoughts about it, because I think on the internet, a lot of people are like, they gaslit me, they're a narcissist. And it's like, is everybody a gaslighting narcissist? Or is like, what's happening here? You've watched too many Instagrams telling you you're right all the time. But I do think, and I find it even in some of my arguments, and you would probably know this, but is there data or studies that show that when people fight, they can't remember what the other party said? Because I think sometimes there's gaslighting that's actually just like, you think that this just happened. I literally think this just happened, but we're in the same situation.
Yes. And I'll also say this, in order for us to understand a lot of why these conversations go awry, we have to understand the mechanics of memory, right? I will teach you everything you need to know about memory in 3 words, okay? Memory is bad. Your memory is horrible. Let me give you an example that happened just today. So we got a deal that came through, an offer, and I was super excited about it. I was like, this is amazing. It just came into our lap. This is fantastic. Check this person out. Look how big they are. This is great. And then my my head of sales said, if you recall a couple of weeks ago, I told you I was working this, and this is her responding to me. I was like, I'm really sorry, bro. I did not mean to do this, and I promise you it will certainly happen again, because memory's bad, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we are accusing somebody of gaslighting, it might be unintentional. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. But what we need to do is pay attention to patterns. If we are in a position where over and over and over again, we are finding ourselves in these weird miscommunications about what is real or what has occurred, that's a problem in itself, right? And I think we have to take a step back and just recognize that. It might be an accident, and then sometimes it might be intentional gaslighting. And if it's the latter, then the best thing you can do is not try to win that argument about what is real. Once you've identified a person as gaslighting or manipulative, you need to pull back and try to get yourself that freedom that you need, because what they want is more engagement. What they want are more opportunities to manipulate you, and you need to deprive them of those opportunities.